Don Kinsinger on. They are just great guys. They've been on our group for about, how long has it been? Do you know, Chuck?
I've been on probably about a little over a year. How about you,
A little
Don?
over a year.
Well, I got on shortly thereafter, whenever you told me about it, Chuck, and I've enjoyed it since.
That's great.
We look forward to you at least every Friday.
Yeah, at the shooting.
And for each of your competitions, you ask for a number of hits or whatever you're going to do that.
Or on what hit. Yeah,
event.
right. Yeah.
And we always choose the same number. Chuck chooses a certain number and I choose a certain number.
Right. Yeah, the
Chuck
odds
always,
they line up.
Why we choose certain numbers, Don?
well, Chuck chooses the number 35.
That's how old he is.
Well, that was last year.
Oh, yeah.
And I choose the number 29.
Okay.
And that's because when we played college football together,
Right.
he was 35 and I was 29.
That's right. So there you go.
Now he was much better than me.
And we both won. We both won relics from Pistol Pete.
Oh, I see
We're
that.
wearing them today.
Yeah. You know, I haven't made any gold nuggets lately. I'm going to make one though for somebody. I've got to do that. I use a carbon arc torch, and of course that's old fashioned. Acetylene and the gas setups, you know, just so expensive, and it works well enough for me. I was able to get carbon rods. I got 50 of them for like $15, and they work really well once you get the flame up. And that arc is probably, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 degrees, so it melts it pretty fast.
So
And
even though Chuck got on your channels first and won a necklace before I did, I got him into metal detecting.
Oh, did you?
And this goes back, oh goodness, not too long ago. My oldest son, goodness, who's now 40 years old.
Oh my.
He bought me a metal detector for Christmas, 2018. I just mentioned a few times that I was wanting to do something to improve some leg strength. And I thought, hey, getting up and down from the ground will sure do that. So he bought me this metal detector, and I told Chuck how much I was enjoying it. And before long, he said, well, what should I buy? I told him what I gave him a suggestion. A couple of days later, he said, we're ready to go.
Cool.
So that's how the two of us got into it.
Well, and we live.
And he still likes you for it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, he gets that treasure fever too bad. You know, it might become an obsession. You know,
We live about 2 hours from each other.
right?
So it gives us a great opportunity to plan outings together. I'll go down to his place to detect, and he'll come up where I live to detect, and it just gives us a good reason to get together on a regular basis.
Is it hard to get sites where you are? I mean, I think you told me there's not a lot of detecting in your area.
Well, where I live, there's not a lot of detecting. I live in rural Pennsylvania.
Right.
Yeah, near Altoona, Pennsylvania, in a little town called Martinsburg, of about 2,000 people, all farmland around, and not many people detecting. Honing in on what I would call really good sites takes some time and takes some research to do that. But
are your township maps available for the old long gone places? Are your township maps available?
Yeah,
way back.
Yes,
online
county and township maps. Maps we have found here that are helpful. I have some good map resources going back to 1873.
Great.
And use those maps, and they show locations of where there was a residence at one time, and usually, often it'll even give the landowner's name. And I'll talk about some specific places there that we've been. But Don, where he lives, it's a lot different than where I live. Don, do you want to talk about your area?
Yeah, I live in a wooded community called Mount Gretna, Pennsylvania. And this community started back in 1892. And there's various portions to Mount Gretna. The portion I live in is called a Chautauqua. Now, back in the late 1800s, very early 1900s, there were many Chautauquas across the United States and even into Canada. And the Chautauquas came out of the need for people to associate with one another, to share literature, new inventions, religious activities, art, all that type of thing. And so these summer sites became established all across the country. And today there's only about 14 Chautauquas in the country. So where I live, we have about 200 cottages in the Chautauqua. About a half of those are full-time residents. The other half, people just come for the summer.
I'll be.
During the summer, we put on summer programs down at our open air theater. We have the Hall of Philosophy. And so it's really bustling during the summer, but during the winter, it's nice and quiet. And with the history of that, the Chautauqua, there's lots of places to go metal detecting. For about 40 years, maybe 50 years, the Pennsylvania National Guard was situated here in Mount Gretna. And that ran from about 1885 to 1935.
Whoa.
So there's relics to be found, a lot of ammunition. But I enjoy just going out and getting the exercise and relics, old coins, things that are historic here to Mount Gretna.
Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of our conversation. What is your oldest coin that you've recovered over there?
Well, mine isn't nearly as old as my brother's, but the oldest one I found was just a couple of weeks ago off the back porch of a cottage, an 1884 seated Liberty dime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Congrats on that. Yeah.
Chuck found one much older than me.
Unless it's gold. Yeah, nothing like seeing silver. Unless it's gold, right? You know, that's great. Hey, if I could back up just a little bit in our conversation, in our thinking at this time. Now, you're both professional men. You were both educators. Our folks, we like to know a few things like that. So anything you guys want to share about that, that would be super.
Well, we both went to the same college, Juniata College, which is a small liberal arts school, majored in education, and we taught, ended up both in administration for many years, and I had a good long career in education, doing a lot of different things. I worked for the State Department for a while and did some training out of state for school leadership, and also did some work at the college level in administration. So we've had a good career in education. We're both retired.
Yeah. And I think we got into that because of our families. Our father was a school administrator. Mother taught in the same building. And so when we went off to college, we had a lot of opportunities available to us, but we thought, hey, our parents did pretty good, so maybe we'll just follow up on what they did.
Right. That's great. I like knowing that kind of stuff. I think it's so neat. We see so many people on Facebook and we just don't know anything about. And when people share, it just brings a person more to life.
I agree. Yeah.
So that's great. I appreciate that, Don. Thank you, Don, for sharing that about that coin. That's great. Chuck, do you want to say anything about one of your recent?
My oldest coin. I found a place to detect. I probably enjoy detecting in the woods more than anywhere. I detect around old homes and things, but I like to find old cellar holes in the woods. So I've done a lot of research in that regard and finding where there used to be a house or a dwelling of some kind, and found a particular location that has been occupied since the at least the mid 1800s, and by the coin I found is even well before that. And as old dwellings go, they're changed over time and added to. And I think it started out as a one room house at one point, and then after that they built a barn and other buildings, and they're all gone now. It's all grown up and wooded.
Uh-huh.
But Dawn and I both hunted there, and we found a number of different cellar holes. And it just so happens I found 2 coins there. And what was interesting is that I never recorded or videoed a dig until that time. And just by the repeatability of the sound and the where it came on my detector, I determined that's got to be a coin. And so I videotaped both of them. And the first one I found, I think was perhaps a V nickel. I'm not certain. It's that size. I can't really determine exactly what it is. It's that well worn. But then a couple of weeks later, another good signal. I dug it, and I got a good video of the dig, and it ended up being a Connecticut copper from 17, I forget what it is now. But did the research on it and found that. So that's the oldest coin I found, which really tells me more about this property and how long it goes back, how far it goes back. That's what I enjoy about detecting, probably more than anything, is finding a property and trying to figure out, okay, who lived there?
Right.
Why did they live there? How long did they live there? What did they do? And when I find something, when did they lose it, and did they miss it?
Right.
So yeah.
Great. I just love that. I mean, I just love to do that. Those old cellar holes. I think that'd just be so cool. We live, of course, in a huge farming community, grain farm, and all our fields are pretty much just, well, whatever's planted in them. So we get stuck in the summertime. Once things are planted, then we're pretty much out of it. If you get a hay field or something like that, which across the road is a hay field, which was a great site for me, but we've had so much rain, and it 3 days time it's grown back up again. So
we've had Pete, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So you've hunted in this hayfield across the road, and I Googled Earth View, so I know I've seen your house.
Right.
Google Earth and the field across from you. Did you know that there were particular dwellings there at one time, or you just out blindly metal detecting?
Well, there's a little bit of controversy. This was a little burg called Hagenball Station, and this actually was a water tower and a coal bin over here for the old trains to refuel. And some people say, yes, there was a depot right next to the track. Well, no, I found a house, which from what we've found over the years, it looks like a residence because there's china and the usual stuff. I've dug depots and I know what stuff you find, and there has not been that sort of thing. So, yeah, but if you get on Google Earth and you go out from my house, I just live in a little ranch, but just about northeast, near the track bed, probably 150 feet, there was a house there, which is probably off this road, a couple football fields, and then off the track, maybe 150 feet, something like that. So on certain aerials, you can see the footprint of the house. It depends on how dry it was that year. Yeah. So some areas, you can see those exact footprint where they stood. I'd say right now, when you hit a map in your area, can you say that there were probably in your township, let's say maybe hundreds of houses are no longer there, or is it pretty rare that there's still not a house there?
There are a lot of the maps that I look at. There are a lot of houses that are not here.
Long gone. Okay.
that are gone. And again, I prefer to hunt really old sites, and I'm not as interested in finding a lot of coinage. It's just the relics.
Right. I'm with you.
What did they have? Why did they have it? What did they do? And so there's a particular place I've learned to hunt. I'll tell you about it. A friend of mine that I know does a lot of hunting, and I do too, but he was out in the woods, and I said, Rob, I said, have you, in your hunting, ever come across any stone walls? He said, yeah, I did one time. This was a long time ago, but it was way up in the mountain above a town called Hopewell. I said, let's go. So we took off one day last fall and drove way back into the mountain and parked, and then hiked another 2 miles across the top of the mountain, and then actually down the mountain, looking blindly for the stone wall in the middle of the woods. And wouldn't you know it, we found it. So I mentally marked where we were and went back a couple weeks later with a friend of mine detecting, found the wall, and it's in the middle of a mountain, probably 2/3 of the way up the mountain. And it's a long wall that goes from toward the bottom of the mountain straight up. And the wall was probably at least 600 feet long, at least that.
Oh, no.
It's not hand built in that it's stacked exactly right, but just a long straight wall. And I'll show you a picture of it here later that goes on for quite some time.
I'd love to see that.
Obviously a cleared field, cleared mountain ground, and they got the ground cheap, probably came over here from Germany or somewhere at that time. And when I went back the second time, actually the third time to the location, didn't we find the cellar hole and a well? It was
right
out in the middle of the woods. And so I have some pictures to show you of that. And those are sites I enjoy hunting most. But the people that lived there, their last name was Garrettson. And I know that by finding a blurb on a map, and that's got to be it. And the name was connected with it.
Right. You mentioned, and I get excited just like you do, trying to figure out how long they were there. I have one site I know, I assume it was her father on the 1858 map, owned it. And then by 1874, her name was on the property, Angie Cowgill, an Irish woman, I assume they came over. But the oldest coin I found on that site was 1914. So I'm assuming by then she probably left. But then I got on the house was still standing in 1936, but that doesn't mean there was still somebody living there. But you get on the topographical maps on the historic aerials, and it did show there was still a house there. But to find a ring or something that she wore, I mean, it was just so exciting because I did find a ring, and it was too small for any of my fingers. So I'm assuming this was something she wore right on her hand. So, I mean, it just thrills me to do that. So I kind of have a love affair with her. You know, it's like the name's cute, you know. So, yeah.
Those are great finds. Great finds.
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone keeps going off here.
Yeah, I got the same thing. The court's supposed to call me, but I told them I was going to be in a meeting. So I don't think they've called yet. So.
Don, tell them about the location there at Mount Gretna where you were detecting under a porch.
Oh, yeah, we have a rather popular ice cream shop here in Mount Gretna called the Jigger Shop. And this Jigger Shop has been around for over 100 years. And the other day, I saw the owner was doing some lattice work and the lattice was coming apart, and there's a way to get in underneath this porch. So I approached him and I said, Kyle, I said, do you mind if I bring my metal detector down and see what treasures I can find? Well, I spent about 2 days there, hands and knees. Worst part about it was, came out with a pretty sore back, but I did find some fun things. And Kyle, the owner of the jigger shop, was really pleased to receive probably 2 sets of cutlery that had fallen down through the boards, the floorboards. So I came out with all kinds of forks and knives and spoons, along with a load of clad.
Yeah.
But my best find here in Mount Gretna came a day after I received the metal detector as a Christmas gift. I was all excited, had no idea how to use this metal detector, turned it on, went outside. It was cold. Fortunately, there wasn't any snow on the ground. Just off our patio, heard this sound. To me, just a newbie, I didn't know if the sound was a good one or not, but I decided to dig. The very first thing I came up with was a token, about the size of a dime, made out of lead, pretty much all white. On the edges, it was all serrated. And on one side, it had initials, had these letters, C and LRR. And on the other side, a number 1. Well, a little research showed there was a railroad through this area called the Cornwall-Lebanon Railroad, established in 1885 and ended in 1918. So this token, which had the number 1 on the backside, was good for 1 ride on this train.
Oh, yeah.
And it was over 100 years old. My very first find.
Yeah, those are just such sweet things to find, because, especially when you can find out what it was and how it was used. That just tells so much. It's great. I dug a baggage tag up in my yard 5 years ago, and come to find out the railroad only existed 12 years. But at one time there were 6,000 railroad companies in the U.S. I found that out. So, and see, that's the thing about our hobby, is that I find something, and then it just spreads way out, because you got information. If it says something, you find out who the company is. If it's made of some material, you can find out what it's made of. This is endless what you can find out just from one little thing you dig up. It's amazing. And on tokens, I know there's one guy, I think he's got like a whole book. I mean, it's something he does. And I don't know how many thousand tokens that he knows about, but I think he does have a book out. And I don't know what all he includes. I've never looked at that closely, but that's tokens are just wonderful information. So
another fun token I found was over at a place called the Hideaway, and I spent probably a week around that area, and I came out with something about the size of a $50. And on one side, it says Ford Motor Company. And then it has the dates 1903 to 1933. The back side, it has 30 years of progress with a V and an 8 for the V8 motor. And this token was given out at the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. So it was neat to see something from a World's Fair here in Mount Gretna.
So cool.
I've only found one token, and that was actually in a yard in Altoona, Pennsylvania, small yard, and it was a semi-centennial for the founding of Blair County. Blair County was formed out of Bedford County, in 1846. And this token or commemorative coin celebrated the 50th year of the founding of Blair County. So it was dated 1896. It has a canal boat on one side and a railroad or a train on the other side. Altoona, Pennsylvania was a big train area, rail area at that time. That's the only coin in that regard that I found.
And Pete, you mentioned that, and we know that you make lots of jewelry out of things that you find, rings and so on. I'm looking at a ring right now, and someone had found a New York City Transit Authority token for the subway. And when I researched it, it shows that this particular type of token was used from 1953 to 1970, and they put it into a ring that I'll show you here.
Cool. Huh. Where did you say you got that?
Here in Mount Gretna, at a place called the Hideaway.
Oh, okay, I got you now. Yeah.
Pete, I have
Go ahead, Joe.
I have some pictures I can try to show you that's in a format that they go pretty quickly. It's what's it called, Dawn? Like a video view. I can show you some of those if I can work this right. Yeah.
I think one thing we do want to do before we press too much further is, you're both Garrett, man, are you? The Max? Is that what
I use a Garrett AT Max, and that's the one that Dawn suggested I buy, and I love it.
Right.
He suggested that because his research showed that that's what he would buy if he was going to buy one. But Dawn did not buy that. For what reason, Dawn?
Well, I'm still using the one that my oldest son gifted me as a Christmas present, and it's a Bounty Hunter Time Ranger. And you know, Time Ranger is a beginner machine, but it's done well for me, and I think if I were to give advice to anyone, it's get a machine that you can afford, and then get to know the machine and trust the machine. Because I don't know how many times I have to remind myself, Don, trust what you hear, trust what the machine is telling you. It's kind of like my wife will say to me, Don, did you hear me? Or do you have selective hearing? And I think the machine's trying to say the same thing to me. I'm trying to hear something that it's not telling me to hear.
Right.
And then I go around digging all these signals that I know I shouldn't be digging because the machine tells me it's going to be junk, and it's junk.
Yeah.
If I learn to trust the machine, no matter what the machine is, it's wise to do that.
Yeah. It has to keep repeating the same thing. And I have found silver with iron, but it's a nagging signal. It kept nagging. You know, I said, there's something there that's not just iron. And so you better dig it. And even if you get a pull tab range, you know, that's where the gold rings can be. And it repeats and repeats. Of course, we know the pull tab just repeats, but you say, well, I'm not going to take a chance on this one. So I would go, pull tabs are what, 62, something like that on a Garrett. You know, if it gets a little lower, and it keeps repeating, I think, you know, that could very well be a gold ring. Mike Spicer, he found a gold coin last season, and it was just like a shotgun hit.